Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to this regular hearing of the Budget and Finance Committee. Today is Monday, July 1st, 2019. I'm Paul Krikorian, Chair of the committee, joined by my colleagues, Mr. Blumenfield and Mr. Koretz, and we are ready to begin today's agenda. Members, for your information, I would propose as consent items on number 5, noting and filing, on item number 6, concurring with the Energy, Climate Change, and Environmental Justice Committee and approving the CAO's recommendations. On item 7, approving the CAO's recommendations. On item 8, approving the draft ordinance. And I would recommend those for consent approval. We do have comment requests on those items, so we'll be taking up public comment first. But I would like to invite up Mr. Previn first to speak on his agenda matters, and then if you could give him his 1 minute of general public comment following his 2 minutes as well, please. Followed by Ms. McAllister, same process. Okay. And okay. Mr. Previn, welcome.
Thank you, Council President. It's Eric, Mr. Krikorian. You got a lot of interesting stuff on here. The ones that concern me the most are the ones for the $300 million extension of the agreement to make the plastic bins available. $300 million is a lot. And I know Koretz is busy with the idling ordinance, and we're all busy with the hashtag Green New Deal. So I'm wondering if extending out for 10 or 15 years such a robust contract, what if we come up with a better system? What if there's a more effective way to take care of it? And I just think it's a lot. And I hope I have the number right. Do I have the number right? There's a little shuffling going on over there. You know, item number 7, I know I have the number right. This is your collection groups. These are the people who, if you're not a sword fighter, they will get you. They're like little things that get in the fur of an animal, and they don't let you go for things that are frequently completely inaccurate. Like I think the business tax is a good example where people would get tagged and then Harris and Harris, and next thing you know they're with a collection agent. It's just not friendly during a hashtag national disgrace, especially when it's frequently wrong. And by the way, for the record, well done on a jumbo-packed agenda tomorrow, 111 items. Wednesday, 86 items for a total that nearly crests 200, one of which is the finance department, the stately finance department. Claire Bartels, your treasured partner, is moving her office space over into
Let's stick with the agenda item until you get through general public
former
comment.
Times building, which blanched my mustache.
Stick with the agenda.
Sure, I'll stick to the agenda, but these are all on the agenda tomorrow in the no speaky section, so that's why I wanted to bring it up. AECOM Hotel, for example, a $17 million Koretz feeding that back to AECOM makes us wonder, because these are the same folks who underwrote the mayor's inauguration, which is blanches the typical resident's mustache, in light of their agreements with LAX, agreements with the county, agreements with the city, and Metro. Thank you for that, sir. And we cannot get one mobile pit stop going, but we're working on it, and we got to Phil Washington now, sir, while you were out at the Metro meeting the other day. Okay. So the general public comment, to just finish up. Last night, the LA Press Club humbled Mr. Previn Jr. and Aline Brown of The Intercept by awarding us not one but 2 first prize, thank you, for articles about the Skirball fire, which Koretz has been diligently trying to keep everybody safe up in that area. I just want to make sure that when Leo Beck Temple filed a claim against the city, that went away. Because if there's any way that we somehow paid that group for anything, because the origin of that fire was basically is still undetermined, and that's what the article was about. It was about how unfortunate it was that we ended up scapegoating the homeless for something that was really not their fault. There are many things that is the fault of the people who have the least, but this was not one of them, and there are many that are not that, and they get screwed all the time. Finally, item number 1 is just another police harassment retaliation. It's so painful. Here's a 911 operator, and for no reason, she basically brought a big lawsuit, and everybody brought a big lawsuit. It's just, we need to do better, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. McAllister. And Mr. Price is here as well.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to speak on item number 1 first, and this is about a Whistleblower Protection Act. And I've done some research, and I know in the computer industry, where these programmers are coming over to the H-1Bs, they're the ones who are writing code that's illegal that's embezzling funds from Americans. And they don't complain. They'll do it because they want citizenship. And the Americans are the whistleblowers. And that's why they like to hire these illegals. Now, I have proof of this from the LAUSD and the California State Teachers Retirement System, where I have the code. I'm a computer programmer, degree in computer science, Chicago State University. I have the database layout, and I have proof that database was written to embezzle teacher retirement funds. And so many people are getting kickbacks from it that I can't even get a lawyer. Every lawyer I call, when I mention that program, oh, we got some business with the city. We can't do this. We can't sue them. So I know what this H-1B is about. I know why. That's why they love bringing them into this country, taking our jobs as programmers. Now, number 5, and you know I'm on you about these lawyers, and I probably got a lot of them in the audience right here today. I think that's the biggest department in this city that's embezzling money. Now, you got on this list, you've got 193 outside firms, some of them are the same firms, that you use 193 times for $14.2 million. I like to see what they're working on. Then you have a full-time staff of 600 attorneys. What kind of crap is this? You think we're crazy? 600 on staff, and here you hired 193 during the year, and this is just for 6 months, second quarter, ending December 31, 2018, for $14.2 million. I'm trying to get the FBI in here on this. I really am, because this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Now, my 1 minute, there was a press conference held 2 weeks ago outside to recall Mayor Eric Garcetti. If you go to this website, www.recallthelamayor.com, if you're a registered voter in Los Angeles, and if you live here, some of you don't even live here, some on the council, we want you to sign that petition. The petition is moving pretty good. That's just online. Now, they're collecting on the street also. And I'm working to help spread the word. We need to get him out of office because the mayor is signing this mess. See, when you all put this together and then you hand it to him, I see the signature. He's got some Latino woman signing all these responses that the finance committee sends down to him. Now, I'm trying to find out where we can find the finance committee responsible, because you have no business signing off on crap like this and you haven't investigated. I believe some of these cases you all have fabricated, had somebody fall down on the ground, hire these attorneys, you all cut the deal, get some of the money.
Thank you. Is Red Chief here? Okay, then we'll pass on him and bring up Wayne. Just speak on your agenda items. 2 minutes, please.
Yes, so welcome to the plaintiff on Sarah Petitiano. And of course, what happened, whistleblower claim that, this is just so typical. So that's why I passed out today this legal document entitled LA City Budget Committee, and it will explain that none of the 15 council members are allowed to practice law in the state of California. Boo-hoo. So how do you guys know what to settle and not to settle? You don't know shit about the law. That's what this says right here. You see that? Paul Martin Kerkorian, not eligible. Jose Huizar, inactive. And then, of course, let's talk about discrimination. Let's talk about all the faces of Mr. Kerkorian's staff. Not a single black face in the crowd.
Sir, none of
does not hire African Americans.
And you'll be removed.
Well, number 5, outside counsel. How do you have, and any of you that work for the city, how do you allow a man that can't pass ethics to hire our outside counsels? Because this man here has a triple suspended bar card, and he's hiring all of our outside counsels. That's right. And that's why Mr. Koretz is the only intelligent one of the panel that looks at this and goes, oh, shit. Yep, that's right, because it's an oh, shit moment for all of you, isn't it? So I would get this Armenian off of this panel and recuse him from hiring any outside firms until this issue with the state bar is resolved, because it's not resolved and it hasn't been resolved and it won't be resolved.
Okay, thank you,
So-
Mr. Spindler.
1 minute.
Have a seat.
You gave Previn his 1
have a
minute to
seat.
general.
Have a seat.
You gave him, did you give him?
Go to the seat quietly, or you'll be removed for disrupting the meeting.
Wait a minute.
I'm instructing you to sit down. Members, items number, Mr. Price, I'd recommended item number 5 for note and file. Mr. Spindler, I can still hear you. You're disrupting the meeting. Sit down quietly or you'll be removed. Item number 5, I recommend noting and filing. Item number 6.
Still disrupting.
All right. Can you have Mr. Spindler removed, please? Mr. Spindler is continuing to disrupt the meeting. I'd like to have him removed from the meeting, please. So long. You're Ms. McAllister, you are now disrupting the meeting.
General comment in the
I
front
run
of
this
the meeting.
meeting. Please have Mr.
Why
Spindler removed.
you would discriminate against me? Why?
Have Mr. Spindler removed.
You graduated
He's
law school.
continuing
You can't do that, can you?
He's continuing to violate my instructions, and he's continuing to disrupt the meeting.
So how the hell can you hold mine back till last? That's discriminatory.
Because that's what I choose to do in running this meeting. Please have Mr. Spindler
You have to
removed.
treat each person equally under the Brown.
So long, Mr. Spindler. You've been removed.
You took it in front. Read the handout.
Have a good day, Mr. Spindler. Have a good day.
Fucking prick.
Have a good day. All right. Members, Mr. Price, I had recommended that we note and file item number 5. Mr. Blumenfield had a question on item number 6, so we'll go ahead and have staff come on up on that. I'd also recommended approval of the CAO's recommendations on number 7 and
I've got a question on 7.
Okay, Mr. Price has a question on number 7, so we'll ask staff to report on that as well. And item number 8, the recommendation is to approve the ordinance. So if there's no other questions on 5 and 8, we'll go ahead and it will be the action of the committee to note and file number 5 and to approve the draft ordinance on 8. Let's go ahead and hear item number 6.
Item number 6 is a City Administrative Officer report relative to authorizing the Bureau of Sanitation to execute 2 proposed personal services contracts with Rarig Pacific Company and IPL Plastics, Inc. for automated containers and ancillary services for a 10-year term with 1 5-year renewal option.
Who's here to report on 6? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We can just go to Mr. Blumenfield for his question.
Yeah, the question is fairly simple. It just jumped out at me that we had a $300 million contract, and we only got 2 bidders. One was for the bulk of it, and one was for the small amount. That just seemed odd on such a large $300 million contract. What is so complex about this contract that we didn't get? And it seems like a fairly simple thing, building trash cans. There must be a lot of companies. Why? How do we account for that?
I'm Alex Helou, Assistant General Manager, Sanitation. It's really, there's only like 4 or 5 companies nationwide that do these type of business. So it's not as simple as it looks. I mean, there are the container that we have requested has to be over 30% recycled material. It's also injection molding. So this is the products that we have done testing on. So we had this actually for over 5 years. We did the first RFP. We only had 2 companies. We did the second, and some of them did not pass the good faith effort. So we reissued the RFP, and only we got 2 companies that submitted. One is the U.S. The other one is IPL, which is in Canada, but they're opening operations in the United States. So this was advertised widely. But there's really less than probably a handful of companies that do these type of products.
And is that what most cities get, the same concept, where they only get 1 or 2 companies applying?
Excellent question. A lot of cities actually rely on our RFP to piggyback on it. For example, City of San Diego, I know a lot of times have used our RFP because it's a long process. You have to do the testing of the container, the tensile strength of the polymers that's used in the containers, also the recyclability. So we have several cities that have relied on our RFP or our contract to piggyback. So that's not unusual. there's really like 4 or 5 companies that do these things. And also the amount that we request, very few are able to meet it.
Yeah, because when I go to like League of Cities or something, there's always a lot of companies pitching their garbage cans or whatever.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, with sample, so it's a little shocking to me, but
I mean, we know who they are. I mean, we know it's the 4 or 5 companies really that would be able to compete on this. But with the city, we had only 2.
okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions, members? All right, if there's no other questions, it would be the action of this committee to concur with the Energy, Climate Change, and Environmental Justice Committee and approve the CAO's recommendations.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Item number 7.
Item number 7 is the City Administrative Officer report relative to a supplement agreement with Alliance One Receivables Management, Inc., Gila Corporation, DBA Municipal Services Bureau, Harris & Harris Ltd., Pioneer Credit Recovery, and Trans World Systems, Inc., for primary and secondary collection services.
Mr. Price, did you want to open up on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'm just curious. Thanks for this report. It obviously is of a great import. Curious what the potential value could be if we collected all we're supposed to be collecting out of this. And two, what's the level of diversity in these firms? We have 6 firms. Just kind of curious which ones are women-owned, any minority-owned, any veteran-owned, or just regular guys? Who are we doing business with?
Good afternoon. Saul Romo with the Office of Finance. In terms of the diversity, I don't believe that any of these firms have any specific special certifications out of our Bureau of Contract Compliance. We do the outreach to try and attract the kind of diversity that our city social policies attract. As to the value of the contracts, there is a significant amount of age receivables from the various city departments that, depending on all the different efforts that the departments have gone through to try and, collect on what's owed to them, that we have to take it up to another level. And we have made some successful recoveries. For FY 2017-18, I believe it was close to almost $9 million in recovery from debtors paying the bills that they otherwise were not paying to the departments.
Yeah, well, I'm not doubting that the collection value is important. I'm just curious who is doing the collecting.
Oh.
Since we have some choice,
Well, we
I
do.
mean, we're picking these individuals. They were selected for a reason. I'm
Correct. Well,
So again, just kind of curious what the level of diversity is in these firms that you're recommending, or do you know?
well, there is a limit to the diversity as well, because a lot of these institutions need specialized accreditation certifications. As an example, one of our client departments is the fire department for ambulance services. There's special HIPAA considerations that have to be considered in the collection.
I don't doubt that, but I'm sure there's some women-owned firms, minority-owned firms, veteran-owned firms. that
There
do
are.
that. I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah.
Do we have any here?
Well, in here, no, but we are currently issuing we have an RFP out. We have had a proposals conference. We were very successful and had at least 24 agencies represented. And it's one of the things that we strive for, and when we're looking and assessing, the bids that come in and the outreach that we do to try and get the diversity.
So how would you characterize your efforts then to date in doing that?
Well, we do outreach. We do also identify those agencies that do carry certifications with our contract administration to target those for potential business and consideration in the process. But we won't know until we know who's actually filed applications or are successful bids.
So these 6 that you've identified, have they been on our bench for a while? I mean, do we know what they can do, what they've done?
We know what they can do. We know what they've done. They were a result of an RFP issued, I think, almost 5 or 6 years ago, and they've been with us successfully for 5 years and doing some excellent recovery efforts. And we know that they wouldn't be recommended for further consideration if we felt that they really weren't meeting our thresholds and our compliance demands.
Well, we know that concerns about diversity have certainly changed over the last 5 years. So that's why I'm just curious kind of what the current makeup looks like and how effective we've been in selecting contractors that reflect our values. I'm just curious. It looks like we don't have any idea.
Well, we do have limited capabilities for the outreach. I mean, we pose the RFP out, we post it, we do make, get as much information out to prospective bidders, but ultimately it depends on a lot of the businesses, whether they think this is a business venture that they want to engage in and want to get into. I know that at least only one of the companies is a locally represented company, Kane & Weiner, with about 50% of the workforce residing here in Los Angeles.
So one of these, you say would be a local firm then? Which one?
Yeah, Kane & Weiner.
Keenan, I don't see that one. One, two. Oh, Keenan Wilder. Okay. So what's going to be different about this current procurement process? You received, RFP went out in May. You expect to get them back in July.
Well, I could tell you
Whoever's this,
at least from this process.
fine with you, or what's our effort? What are we trying to do?
Well, I can tell you from this recent process, we had a national geographic distribution of interest. We had a lot of firms from the Midwest, firms from the South. We had a handful of firms from California. So nationally, there's an interest, a geographic interest. To the extent that these firms are representative of our how do we say, our different diversity profiles that we're looking for within the city. We're at the mercy of the institutions. We can't really dictate to them, this is what we want.
But we can do outreach. We can aggressively recruit, aggressively inform and invite folks to participate in this process. I mean, I realize it's specialized. It is using the telephone and calling people. It's a pretty specialized activity, I know. But I think it's possible to see some real professional diversity in that process. I'm just disappointed we don't have a handle on it. And I just think, Mr. Chairman, something that some of us have an interest in. And again, I know that there's some rules and regs about percentages. I'm not suggesting there has to be a certain percentage. But I think you should at least be able to come back and say, yes, we did outreach to these various organizations and groups and only got 10 responses back. As opposed to, well, yes, we've been using them for the last 5 years and they're back on the bench again.
Well, we could certainly commit that before these RFP responses are due on this next round, that we do another effort of outreach so that we could hopefully generate the kind of interest that, that you're seeking in the responses.
It's an interest that we all are seeking. I mean, we all have I think, an interest in wanting to have a diverse group of service providers. This seems like an area where we could make that happen.
We will try.
I'm just not sure we're doing it, that's all.
We'll make that effort before this next round is up.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I just want to agree with Mr. Price's concerns, and another round of outreach would be good, except that the responses, as I read the report, are due this month. And so I'm not sure if a response to an RFP within less than 30 days is realistic.
We do have the option of extending the the response date of the RFP.
Okay.
That is a discretion that we do have.
Okay. I remember when we had this discussion about collection agencies years ago, maybe it was the last time when this bench was up. One of the concerns that we had was rate of success. And I note that the attachment A shows the different contingency fees that are charged, and the local Los Angeles firm has the lowest contingency fee for secondary services and for the large collection cases for primary services as well. It's the lowest of the 6. 5 of the 6 have 0 people residing in the city, and that's a concern, especially given the fact that presumably they'd be entitled to take advantage of the local preference ordinance as well in bidding for this. So I think it's important that as we move forward, number one, that we at least have some local and certified hiring goals, if nothing else, as part of our RFPs. And second, that participation on the bench and how much work is distributed to them once they're on the bench is governed, at least in part, by how successful they are in realizing collections. This is the taxpayers' money, and to leave any uncollected amount out there that is still collectible is something that we should not be satisfied with. And I see nothing in here that really gives a comparison among these businesses with how successful they've been in realizing those collections. And that was a significant problem 6-7 years ago. Less so now, but I think at least comparing among them based on their success is important. So if we could get that report back, presumably when you come back with the next stage in this procurement, that would, I think, be instructive to me, and I hope to other members as well. Anything else on this one, members? Okay. If there are no other questions or concerns about this matter, would be the action of the committee to approve the CAO's recommendations along with the requests that have been made by Mr. Price and myself. All right. And we dealt with 5 and 8 already. I mentioned that. Okay. So thank you very much. That will conclude our open session items, and that will take us then into closed session. So does the city attorney have any preference on order? And the Budget and Finance Committee is back in open session. Is there any more business before the committee? All right. In that case, if there's no objection, we are adjourned.